Welcome back to Mornings. We're talking with Ian Wallace about the problems faced by adoptees forcibly removed from their birth mothers during the adoption boom. Julie joins us this morning. Julie, thank you for your time.
Morning.
We just heard about the abandonment issues which is so prevalent in adoptees. Tell me your circumstances. You're 48 now, and we're talking to people from 30s, 40s and 50s. What were your circumstances?
As in why?
Why you were relinquished?
My birth mother was 34 at the time, which is unusual, and she was going through a very messy divorce. She had 2 children with her previous marriage, and she got pregnant with me, and because she was trying to get custody of her 2 children, her ex-husband said to her, if she'd kept me, she would have lost custody of her children. So she had no option, absolutely none at all. She had to give me up. And which is really sad, because she would have kept me if she could have, but she couldn't because of that.
We heard about the abandonment issues. Does that ring true for you?
Oh, definitely. I think a story I can tell that really brings it home was when I was about 12 or 13 years old. I used to think I was special because I was adopted, because my parents brought me up that way, and I always felt like I was special. And what happened was I was having an argument with some child in a playground, and she turned around to me and said, "No wonder your mother didn't want you." And that just suddenly hit me that, hang on a second, I'd never thought of it that way, and all of a sudden you start to think, she didn't want me, she didn't want me. And it doesn't matter. I had the most loving adoptive parents in the world, but it didn't take away the fact that I kept feeling somebody didn't want me. And you made the comment about birthdays earlier. It was true. Every birthday, I'd sit there thinking, I know she's out there somewhere. I wonder if she's thinking about me.
Did you find it hard as a teenager then? What were you like as a teenager?
I was dreadful. I was a rat bag. An absolute rat bag. It lasted until I was 32, literally, when I found my birth mother, because then I got answers.
You put down to, you know, having rough teenage years as a bit of a rat bag to these issues, because there are a lot of kids and teenagers out there who are rat bags, who weren't adoptees. Why do you put it down to that?
Because I kept blaming everything on that I felt like everybody has like a beginning, a middle in their story, and eventually an end. I always felt like I never had the beginning. And it's just little things that always come and trigger it back up again. Like you'd go to a doctor because your adoptive family has a history of heart problems. You don't know if you've got that. You never know.
I think it's lots of adoptees talk about things like looking in the mirror and wondering, do I look like my mum, and who do I look like, or what mannerisms do I have, or things that are normal for us that are so challenging.
People used to tell me I looked like my adoptive mother, obviously people who didn't know. And I mean, she was chuffed when it had happened, but to me, we don't look anything alike. I still don't think we do. In mannerisms, yes, we're incredibly alike, but in looks, no.
So you talk about the jigsaw and how, you know, life as an adoptee is a jigsaw. When did the puzzle start working for you?
When I was 32 and I found my birth mother, because then I got the story of why I was given up.
And did you feel like it was a fit then, that things started to fit in place?
I knew why everything had happened, because people used to say to me, what's the first thing you're going to ask about? And it was why. I just wanted to know why. Why had I been given up?
Are you at peace with that answer and your life now?
Apart from the fact that I've tried to contact my birth father, and I have contacted him, and he fobs me off all the time, yeah, I'm fine. I would like to hear his side of the story, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Bernadette is on the line. Good morning, Bernadette.
Good morning, Terry Ann.
You can talk about adoption from both sides, because your mother was forced to relinquish you, and at 17 you also were forced to relinquish a child. Just expand on those circumstances.
My birth mother came over from Western Australia to Melbourne, mainly because of, you know, disapproval from family. So there again, like Kate, my mother, I fell pregnant to a divorced man, which was totally unacceptable. So came to Melbourne, stayed there with the help of a couple of girlfriends, had me and intended trying to keep me, because when I got my identifying information, I always wondered, because I was breastfed for 10 days. So upon meeting my mother, found out that she was intending to keep me, was down having a meal one night in a little home near the hospital that she'd had me, and went back up, and all there was left in the crib was a booty. So that's when I was taken to an orphanage and picked up by my adoptive family.
And then 17 years later, what happened?
I find myself pregnant. very strict moral family, just was told to tell no one, went from one state to another, was left alone until the child was born. I had the child, signed the papers, was taken to another area to begin a new life, and it was never discussed.
So now, at the age of 56, have you come to terms and at peace and the circumstances of knowing all concerned now?
Oh, absolutely, Kerry. I've had a wonderful reunion with my birth mother, thanks to an association called Jigsaw that I belonged to for many years. Then I had a wonderful reunion with my son 2 years ago, who tracked me down here in Queensland. So my jigsaw is complete now, and it's the most wonderful feeling to look at this person walking down the street and you think, God, that's who I am, that's who I look like. Because if you see my mother and me, there's no doubting who we are.
Bernadette, you and Julie here must have so much in common, like minds. Do you have questions for each other?
I just really feel for Bernadette because I was reading her story earlier, and the fact that, and I've heard of lots of cases where people don't get told and then find out sort of when they're 17 or 18 that they're adopted, and I think that's so wrong. If people get told, if information is what made life easier for me, the more you can tell people, the better off they are.
Is that how you feel, Bernadette, that information? Did that help you cope?
Yes, I was very resentful. My adoptive parents chose never to tell me for their reasons, best known to them. It wasn't until I was having my son that my father sort of said, what are you going to do with this child? And I said, I'll have it adopted like I was. And he denied it then and denied it till his dying day. My mother then coped and spoke to me about my adoption, but it's never been a big issue. I don't know what it was about it for them.
But in doing that, Bernadette, I read where your mother said to you, almost lied to you and said that your mother was just a silly young girl just like you are. Was that really devastating and hard to deal with?
It was, because at that time, when you don't know who your mother is, you always have these thoughts of, well, they might be this sort of person or that sort of person, and no one likes to be told, well, their mother was a silly young person. I mean, I later went on to find out that she wasn't a silly young person, but I think my adoptive mother, possibly out of fear, of being rejected, perhaps adoptive parents do that because they have this fear of losing these children once they find their birth parents.
Well, all those painful memories, and I know, as Julie pointed out, some kid in the playground says, no wonder your mother didn't want you. And Bernadette, your story, very touching. We really appreciate your contribution this morning, and thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
So, as we wrap this up, clearly getting the information, putting those pieces together is critical.
Yeah.
We can't go back and say what life would have been if you'd lived here or if you'd lived there. How do we, on this day, for all the people watching now in their 30s, 40s and 50s who are still coping, what is the key to being a happier, more contented person?
I think it's two things. One is putting the pieces together. And there are organisations like Jigsaw. We'll bring up, I think we've got a whole lot of contacts for different states where you can go to the adoption support services. Try and find out some information and see if you can put the picture together. That helps you. And then it's really important to try and not let the past define you. It's really easy to live back then. It's better to say, well, that's not really who I am. I want to be who I am now and try and push forward rather than letting that past define you, because you get stuck in it for sure and you can't achieve too much then.
Don't let the past define who you are today. I mean, it's easy from a psychological point to say, but it's pretty hard on every day when you're finding it difficult to cope. But I love that answer. Don't let the past define who you are. So if we've learned anything this morning. Julie, really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Pleasure.
And again, our contributions from Bernadette and Kate, very important this morning. That information, by the way, is on our website, kerryann.com.au, if you need some help. And Ian, terrific. Thank you very much. Here's a fitness idea to help you get trim.